there's a lot we do not know about the long-term effects of dispersants on aquatic life and aquatic environment, and that's why EPA and the Coast Guard are requiring BP to implement a sampling and monitoring plan to detect any adverse environmental effects that may outweigh the anticipated benefits of these dispersants.
When the EPA came out publicly and said, we want them to stop using this and find a less toxic alternative, the EPA said publicly, other countries do not allow the use of this dispersant.
EPA is very much still deeply concerned about things we do not know, and particularly on the long-term effects, which are very hard to judge, on aquatic life, and we do want to make sure that the dispersants that are being used are as non-toxic as possible.
To say that they don't know the effects of something while it's being dumped and that they're going to experiment and test on it, but meanwhile let them keep doing it, just seems preposterous to me.
It's not an everyday product. It's made specifically to disperse oil. And as the administrator for the EPA tried to describe earlier in the general session, it's the lesser of two evils. It's not a good choice. It's not something we would want. It's like they're not totally innocent things. What we're saying is that they don't represent a hazard in seafood. We don't think they'll accumulate in seafood and cause harm to us as consumers. Environmentally, I can't speak to that. They do have some environmental effect for the phytoplankton, the zooplankton, and the nectin. So they do have some effects in concentrated form there. But we don't think that it will get into the fisheries. That's the Food and Drug Administration's position.
Basically what the dispersant does is it breaks up the oil, and in our opinion from day one, it just drops it off the surface, out of sight, out of mind. And we've worried about that aspect of it from the beginning.
Every year, on the order of 40 or 50 million gallons of oil are leaked into the Gulf of Mexico naturally through seeps in the bottom. This occurs worldwide. It's not unusual. And Mother Nature has devised a way. They've developed the bacteria that can consume those hydrocarbons if they're presented in dilute form, if it's not too much all at once. This is a tragedy because it's all at once. So the purpose of the dispersants is to spread that out and make greater surface area by creating all those little droplets that the bacteria can colonize on and break it down in a natural process. That's why they use the dispersants. The reason they use it at depth is because they're trying to break it up in deeper water so that the bacteria can get to it sooner, and so the floating sheen, the surface oil, will not form and will not run into our marshes and come ashore.
Look at what you would like to see happen. You would like all of this oil to come to the surface in one big thick mat, and then you'd like to pick it up.
The closures in the federal waters are based on where the oil is, has been observed, or where it's projected to be within 72 hours. But to reopen it, there is a protocol based on as soon as is observed, either directly or by satellite or the daily overflights, that oil has moved from an area. Then we will immediately start sampling both for fish and for water samples and for things like shrimp, and bring those samples back to the lab to be determined the oil content and the dispersant content, so that Bob from the FDA can talk about those protocols. But those are already set up so that we can get those places open as soon as possible, but also within human safety.
He was asked how long will fisheries be closed by somebody who's in the fishing business, obviously. And what he said was that as soon as they know there's no oil in the water, they'll open them. Well, he probably doesn't know any better than that, because no one knows how long the oil is going to be in the water. And why is that? Because they're dispersing it. So we can't see it, we can't track it, we don't really understand where it is or what it's doing.